and it was in my mouth.
And I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, it was greasy and gross.
If I ever see anything like that again, I'm going to be sick.
Sorry. Well, welcome to the Friends of Zeus podcast. This is episode number 32. Wow. Um, we are going to be talking about, well, first of all, let's do the business. Um, like us on Facebook, the Friends of Zeus podcast on Facebook. YouTube, it's also the Friends of Zeus podcast. You can look at it under the Giants Jack channel, which will eventually change. We're also on Rumble, and I've been slowly putting our show onto Spotify. Really would like people to like that one, because if we get to 50 members on Spotify, we will actually start monetizing.
50?
Yeah, 50. And by the way, I went to the Facebook page and we picked up in the last week like 9 people. Now they're not organic. They're from Jack and Dana's friends, but still, hey, step in the right direction.
There's still people.
Yep. So those who are watching us, both of you, as you know, we kind of switched the hosting around. Tonight it is Michael, and he wants to talk about AI, robots, and other machines of death.
And supercomputers.
And so you're the chef, Mike. What you got cooking?
All right. So this whole thing started like 24 hours ago when I read this article that came out about the assassination of an Iranian nuclear scientist from last fall. I believe it was in November. What we knew at the time was that he was assassinated. We knew that he was a high value target of Mossad and the Israeli military for obvious reasons. He was a super well protected asset of the Iranian military and was pretty much shadowed constantly by soldiers, bodyguards, everything else. His movements were classified, protected. Mossad was tracking him constantly. So anyway, so he was killed last November, and at the time when it happened, it made the news, and everyone kind of figured Israel was behind it. And the news reports coming out of Iran were kind of all over the place. But basically, eyewitnesses and such reported that there was a group of 8 Israeli agents who of course were all killed, and there's this fierce firefight and heroic battle, and unfortunately the scientist was assassinated. If you're Iranian, unfortunate. So what has come out since, and what this article, and I've read multiple other articles, and what I reported to you guys, it's still, I mean, there's still a lot of holes in this, right? I still don't even fully understand it, but the root facts are what actually happened was there was some kind of artificial intelligence slash partially remotely controlled robotic machine gun, something that targeted this guy using facial recognition and assassinated him. And there was not a Mossad agent within 1,000 miles of this place when it happened. It was partially remote controlled. Targeting was done through AI. And this machine self-destructed afterwards. And the only reason we know about this is because it did not successfully fully self-destruct. It's supposed to blow itself to smithereens, and it didn't. So at the time, there were reports from Iranian media that were, again, telling of this heroic battle, but there were leaks from individual Iranian soldiers and bodyguards and things like that, saying that it was not that. It was like something out of some science fiction movie. Now, from what I've been able to put together, what it looks like is Israel had they knew where this gentleman's this guy this nuclear scientist vacation home was, and they parked a pickup truck in the brush or off the side of the road, this abandoned, made it look like this broke down pickup truck. And in the bed of this thing was this robotic machine gun, whatever it was. I don't know what it looked like.
So
And then
it may have looked like this. Do you guys see it?
It may, I don't know. I haven't seen any pictures. And I think this thing is way more advanced than anything we would see a picture of. This is like cutting edge type stuff. And then down the road, they had parked some other sort of like abandoned vehicle outfitted with imaging equipment and things like that. And no one knows exactly when it was put there, but the speculation is it's been there for weeks or months. Mm-hmm. I know from reading from different sources, it held about 600 rounds of ammunition. The Israelis knew that this was a place where this guy would go to once in a while. They knew that he liked to drive himself. And when they got in word that he was going to be going to his like vacation house, they set this thing up. It woke up. It had been in the back of this truck. And the car that was down the road, I positively identified him again through facial recognition systems. And then a few miles down the road, this robot thing woke up. And as the car approached, they had it stationed right where the platoon of bodyguards would tell him, this guy, to stop, and they would go forward and kind of like clear the house that he was going to make sure no one was in there. So the Israelis had a lot of intelligence, about this. But when this like group of soldiers and bodyguards left this guy and, pulled ahead of him to go get everything square, he's driving along. This thing pops up out of the pickup truck, fires like 7 or 8 rounds at the car. They don't know if the initial rounds killed him or not. No one knows. But the car went off the road, and then this thing got up, readjusted, re-locked on, identified, fired 7 or 8 more rounds into this guy's head and took him out. Now, this guy's wife was sitting right next to him in the car. She was completely unhurt. No other people were injured or shot at all. So again, this is something I'm not saying it's never happened before. I'm saying it's never been reported like this. There's multiple witnesses. I mean, there's people in the Iranian military that were obviously shaken up by this, saying like they had no idea what they were witnessing. They had done thermal scans. There was no people around. They didn't understand what was going on. And then after this thing determines that this guy has been killed, it blows up, but it doesn't blow up all the way. And so they have, large chunks of it. And that's where the story comes from. So going back, where I kind of find this stuff really interesting, there was this Werner Herzog documentary called Lo and Behold that came out, I think, in like 2016. And there's been numerous other books and stories, before and after this. I'm sorry? He's amazing.
Werner Herzog.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Any movie he's done is amazing. And it was my first personal introduction to this, really being shown where things are going technologically in our society globally, not just in the United States. So there's 3 factors. You have artificial intelligence, you have supercomputers, including quantum computing, and you have robotics. And at the intersection of all 3 of these things, there's a lot to be concerned about. So you basically have robotics that's advancing way faster than even people who thought it was advancing fast would say. You have artificial intelligence technology, and then you have these quantum computers and supercomputers that have processing speeds that are so fast that there's really only a handful, a half dozen in the world. And the computations and the speed and what they can do is really mind-blowing. So when you combine these three things together, it's Skynet, right? I mean, it's the future is here. And the story out of Iran is it's really like a caveman story. I mean, this is like the very beginning of it, but you guys know how technology is, right? Every 2 years,
I want to say it's
capacity doubles, right? So, I mean, I'm saying
processing doubles. Yeah,
processing doubles. I'm saying if we're seeing news reports about this occurring right now, we're well down this road.
Well,
already.
And there's
anyway, so that was where I came from with the topic for tonight.
And there's a few other things that you have to put into this, like a lot of the technology that we see now has been being used for 20 years, like on a much more covert basis. Basically, I get the feeling that it's released when it's no longer top technology. So, for instance, oh my God, Mike's gone. They got him.
That may happen from time to time.
So, like, what is it? Is it the SR-71 was around? Yeah. It was around in like the 70s or something, like some
the 60s.
Crazy, really? Okay. And where now we see it, and it's in museums, and it's still a highly functional I guess airship, I don't know what you call it, plane. But I mean, it was around for a very long time before we saw it. And then if you want to get a little conspiratorial, a lot of our technology like just flew after what supposedly happened at Area 51. Like there wasn't not right after, but a few short years after, they say that like there's this huge boom in technology. Now that is most likely coincidental, and it could be a chicken or the egg situation. Maybe technology was booming, so maybe that was just an SR-71. You see somebody get out of a plane with a helmet like you've never seen before, and they look like an alien. I'm leaning more towards that. I mean, do I believe in aliens? Yes. Do I believe they would even bother with us right now? No. I think we're monkeys with guns.
Well, so, and Tom, I'm sorry if you have. Do you want to jump in, or because I've got another point.
And you guys are doing kind of a Max Headroom thing tonight. I think it's just my connection, but it's really appropriate for the topic matter. It's funny. I don't know if it's recording or not.
It is.
But I did want to chime in with what Zeus was saying, because I think a lot of this technology is not really new. We've had this remote control stuff, even from the moon or from Mars. We've been doing remote control, vehicles and whatnot, or just remote control spacecraft landing on Mars. A lot of this is not really new. So I'm not too surprised that it's
we
being
did not
used.
land on the moon or Mars. Those were done in a film studio in Burbank.
All right.
Well, to Tom's point, and I would agree, yes, that has been around. And if you dig into the story of what happened to this nuclear scientist, the difference is
nuclear.
Although there was a remote control as far as like giving like a final order, like hitting a button. This thing was equipped with AI where it was able to readjust, retarget, re-identify on its own once the order was given, and recalibrate and kind of work autonomously. So once the decision was given, the car went off the road and crashed, and this thing was able to move, readjust, retarget, and do what it needed to do using information that was not being inputted by a person. It was being inputted through its own sensory gadgets.
But was it just using like a facial recognition? Because I wouldn't call that artificial intelligence.
It was facial recognition. Well, it was facial recognition, and it was also knowing that it had to do whatever it had to do to get this target. But again, I'm not an expert on this subject. I will say,
It
you know,
sounds like they probably kept the human element in there so that
it's tenuous. It's really tenuous. I mean, at what point? I mean, if you can give something a direction and then it can self-correct, self-change,
Well,
you know,
we've
and
had that with like
adjust.
heat-seeking missiles because they'll lock
True.
onto the target, they'll follow it, and when they're like at a certain distance or whatever, they'll go. So that's kind of like what happened here, I guess. It locked on with the facial recognition that triggered the machine gun mechanism to fire, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I'm not fully up on exactly the wheres and hows. I do know a similar thing to this, and I talked to Zeus about this a little bit earlier, but like the whole concept of drone swarms, autonomous drone swarms, where you have these drones that can operate in dozens or hundreds, where they move, they're autonomous from human control.
That's nonsense.
But they communicate with each other. And these are things, I mean, the size of what Zeus has there, things that are armed, right, that have ballistic capability and are able to basically kamikaze their way through windows, through doors, into situations, have facial recognition software, are able to operate without human interaction once the order is given. And Tom, you're right. Yeah, it is like a heat-seeking missile, but a heat-seeking missile, it's searching on. I guess the capability
it's very primitive,
advanced. Yeah, I mean, and
no, you're right. We're at the caveman. This is all gonna explode.
It's all gonna explode.
The AI is just gonna take off.
I mean, you've got people, and again, I always like listening to futurists, even futurists from decades ago, right? Like, and kind of seeing like how close they came to kind of predicting things. And although a lot of people didn't predict necessarily the internet, people predicted kind of like what the internet has brought. You've got not necessarily NASA, but SpaceX and these other space agencies and NASA as well that are studying and developing deep space probes that are basically able to go out and self-replicate, right? So they're able to be launched. They kind of attach themselves to an asteroid or whatever, and they're able to mine, and the artificial intelligence is able to use minerals and resources and create their own progeny to go out and expand even more, almost like a virus. This isn't science fiction. This is stuff people are working on right now, that is existing. I mean, driverless cars. I mean, again, people are like, oh, driverless cars, I get to just, do my homework or have a cup of coffee. These are complex systems that communicate with each other and are making decisions. I mean, when you have a driverless car, it's not just your car that's sensing, oh, where's the line? Where's the car in front of me? What they're talking about is having these vehicles communicating with each other, right? So they're adjusting speeds, distances, times. Oh, runaway. That's what it was. they're adjusting themselves to work as a system together, which is great from a efficiency standpoint. But again, it's not just your car. It's your car working in conjunction with everyone else's car that's around to provide the most efficient, method of movement. I'm not saying this is bad. I'm just saying it's more than just your car being able to get around. It's your car linking with everyone else's car, right? And what is controlling that, right? Like, what is the system? What's the system behind that?
Well, I mean, look right here. We're going cyber, man. This tells me my blood sugar now. I put it on, and for 2 weeks, I just run my cell phone, my mobile computer across it, and it tells me my blood sugar. It can even remind me to check it again in, 3 hours.
Wait, you mean your elbow talks to you?
See this little circle thing?
Oh, okay.
The
Just
tricep.
joking. I was joking.
Yeah, where it's oh. No, I'm just kidding. It was funny. But we're in this weird place where it's like some of it's good, some of it's bad. Are they enticing us with the good? Like, this is great, man. I'm better with my blood sugar now than I've ever been. But is it making me more susceptible to more insidious things? Next they say, well, we'll put an implant and then you don't have to worry about your medication. It'll just automatically go into your system, like Norplant. Remember Norplant?
Oh yeah.
They still use that. I mean, to be quite frank, in the industry that I'm in, or the particular arena of the industry that I'm in, being psych, one of the biggest things that we have a problem with is Tom Sealing. Is non-compliance to medications. So a great deal of the patients that I see more than once because they stop taking their medication. And I have this real dilemma. For me, it's a dilemma because I feel like it's a big brother-ish thing, but I kind of feel like some of these medications, if they were to be put into a medium where they can be automatically delivered to the patient, that would be great. They run their cell phone by it. It checks their levels. Like, this checks my blood glucose. So why couldn't it check a lithium level or a Depakote level? I know you guys don't probably know what those are, but those are two medications that you kind of have to monitor, but they're really effective. So I do have this dilemma of, should we do that?
No.
But then there's that big brother aspect. It's kind of like, and we're not going to talk about it too much. We're not going to talk about it a lot at all, but it's kind of like the mandated vaccinations. It's like, we should have it, but we should not be able to force it on people. And that's where I have a problem with the mental health community. Is it would help them greatly. But, are we taking away their rights? And that's tough. It's tough for me because I want to help them. I truly do care about the community I work with, but at what cost?
The problem for me with that particular setup would be just the security. Because if we got Russians hacking into everything, then they could hack in and then have, everybody taking too much of the wrong medicine.
Well, but with this though, I think they would, at least at the beginning, I would not equate it with like that pill box that your grandmother used to have, where it said Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and she had all her pills. We've all seen that, right?
What's wrong with that?
Well, Mike has that. Oddly enough, he's the youngest of the group.
For my Flintstone,
Just take them all on Sunday to get it out of the way, right?
Just take them all at the same time.
Well,
Right.
but I wouldn't equate this, at least currently, if they were going to do something like this, it would be more along the lines of a single medication. I don't think that it would be controlled externally through anything, but who knows?
You could up the dosage or decrease it. You could hurt somebody just by hacking in.
Yeah, but
Somebody
it
could hack
doesn't
into
quite
Joe
work that way.
Biden's program
It's more of a
and mess up Joe Biden's medicine, and he might start forgetting things.
Right.
I don't think it'd be that way
We
for a
don't want
long
that to
time.
happen.
I don't think we
Yeah.
buy into that for a while. But like right now it would be like insulin pumps. There's people with
I know,
diabetes
but
on.
we're talking about the future here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and so I know Ted Kaczynski is a favorite of this podcast, and if you're listening, Ted, we'd love to have you on sometime. But the whole concept of technology, how it always presents itself initially as a choice, and then over time becomes a necessity, right? I mean, that's kind of if you look back at history, when new technologies come out, it's always like what it can do for humanity. It's a great, you can choose to do it or not. And then like 15 years later, if you're not choosing it, quote unquote, then you're on the skids, right? I mean, like try not having a cell phone today. So yeah.
Go ahead. I blame it all on the escalator. Plain and simple. We never needed steps that moved. We got along fine without them before this.
Well, it did help some, but you know, I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, I'm just saying
Yeah,
technology.
I can get down with that.
Fuck the
Yeah.
escalator. That's what I say. Fuck the escalator.
That's it, but it's a good example. It's like, again, it presents
I
itself
could
as-
get down with that.
I can get down with the escalator.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the escalator, all malls would be single level.
Well, what would Hedgeberg say about the broken escalator? They should have a sign that says, sorry, the escalator is broken, but sorry for the convenience, because it just becomes stairs. Right.
Actually, yeah, you know what? When they break, they are stairs.
They're stairs, right? They just become stairs.
Yeah.
But so I think where I'm kind of going and where this kind of hit me was we kind of are the Geppetto here, you know, with the Pinocchio being all these different technologies where we're kind of going headlong into things. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not trying to be a Luddite here. You know, I think technology has amazing qualities, or it can. But the thing is, technology is neither good nor bad. It doesn't care, right?
Yes,
Technological advancement is technological advancement. It can help you, and it can cause the death of hundreds of millions of people. Like it doesn't. It's passionless in that. And I think in our society and in our global society, we kind of embrace advancements without contemplating the negative sides of things. And I think we're playing with fire. We're heading into areas headlong, head first, rushing into it, and we are not taking into consideration the implications that are there. I mean, you look back at
I was listening, Mike.
Oh, sorry. You look back at like more what we call, and again, the arrogance, these primitive societies, right, that didn't have technology, where you could have people, you just within the last 100 years, in the early 20th century, we had farmers in the Midwest in our own country that could go out and look at the sky and feel the temperature and get a sense of the humidity. I mean, just perception from their own bodies, no technology. And they would be able to know what the weather was going to be the next day. This is where, like, looking at the moon, the color of the moon, cloud formations. Look, we don't have that. That knowledge is gone. And you go back 100 years before that, and you had what we call primitive societies that were able to survive knowing what foods to eat off plants. Like they had a knowledge of their natural world that allowed them to prosper and survive. That is gone. We have formatted that part of our hard drive brain. Like if we didn't have a refrigerator or a grocery store, would you guys feel comfortable going out into the woods and knowing what to eat? Can you catch a squirrel and cook it and know what parts to eat? I mean, my nephew, we went fishing this summer. He had never been fishing before, and he's like taken off with fishing, and he loves it. And I'm so proud of him because I'm like, fishing is a skill. It's like, I remember being in the Boy Scouts, and you had like the little survival packet with like some fishing line and a hook, and knowing how to fish and how to bait something and when to fish and where to fish. And that's a lost art. I mean, it's called a hobby.
No, it's not. I happen to be a masturbator.
I'm just saying it is not it. We think we are arrogant we think that we have it all figured out.
It's
what
worse
we're
than being
doing is-
arrogant. We're complacent.
We're going further out on this limb of dependence, and I'm not saying it's an EMP, solar flare, an EMP, whatever. All these
shut down.
people, all these people that we think are so smart, that are like, man, they know all about the internet. They got all the apps they can do. You lose power to the grid, and these people they're dead in like a week. They don't know anything about how to survive, right? So how much we think we're so smart. We think we're so smart, and we're not. It's so much arrogance. But anyway, I'm just saying we are Geppetto. We are creating this thing, the robotics, the AI, the supercomputer. We think we can control it, and I don't think we understand what we're dealing with. And I don't think this is 30 years from now. I think we're right. We're right. We're the cavemen. We're right at the beginning of it. We're like messing with it.
It's like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, where he says, they kept thinking if they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. So we just keep developing all this stuff. It's probably beyond our understanding and our means. But
yeah. No, I'd like the Meat Eater's Guide to Survival. I'm saying there was a time, and Tom is 100% correct. I'm just saying we think that this is a zero-sum game or something, or that we're so smart, and we're not taking these other things into consideration, whatsoever. And things that, like in that book Zeus just held up, this was stuff that people just had as their everyday knowledge 200 years ago.
I wanted to mention when you said that, so like on a societal level, it's kind of like when you're blind, your hearing gets better.
Yeah.
When you're deaf, your sight is more acute. And we're literally accommodating all our senses with shortcuts. I bought this book honestly because
it's a great book.
Last week kind of freaked me out with the mandate. We're really going to talk about that because it really freaked me out. But I'm thinking Costa Rica. I'm thinking I need to know what I can eat out of the woods if I got to walk to the southern border. You know what I mean? I'm not even joking. There is a part of me that is really concerned for the way the world is. But we'll get away from that. Yes, I think that we have let our senses, technology has allowed us, or made it simple for us to be. And again, I don't think it's arrogant. I think it's complacence. I think we've gotten to a point where, well, if we don't have it now, wait 6 months. It's like a TV, man. If you don't have a TV that's got 240 megahertz, this or that, wait 6 months. It's going to be there, and it's going to be $300 rather than the 2,000 that it is now. That's how technology works. Do I think we're going to become part of the matrix anytime soon? No, but I don't think we're resisting. So we're certainly speeding up the process. You know
what scares me? Let me tell you.
Roseanne Barr and
about this. Well, that's number one on the list. But number two is the Neuralinks.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this?
Oh yeah.
Elon Musk.
No, get into it, Tom.
Once you put a chip, and it's gonna be able to basically read your mind, and you can send tweets without even typing it on your phone. It'll just go from your mind right to your device. What scares me about that is the thought police. So if you think about something, other people are going to be able to know what you're thinking.
Minority Report.
Right. So if you see a pretty girl and you think what you might want to do to the girl, all of a sudden you get slapped with some sort of
like her head on a stick.
On a stick or something that rhymes with a stick. Hey. So, or if you think, whatever you're thinking, they'll be able to like arrest you. People are gonna thought police are just gonna be all over the place if that happens, right?
So
Again, I think I get what you're saying. I think these things could happen. Very likely
they're
will.
going to happen.
What?
They're going to happen.
But it's going to be a paradigm shift. They're not going to do it that way. What they're going to do is they're going to do Google Glasses, and then they're going to give you a halo. They'll call it a halo because then it's angelic, and you put it on your head, and it does those things. But you can take it off, so everything's cool. But you'll get to a point where I don't know how to find my way out of my house because I don't have my halo. It didn't tell me how to walk to work. It didn't tell me how to hit the gas in my car. We'll become dependent on it. We'll become addicted to it. Dopamine.
Yes.
So,
and then
is it
once
gonna
you're wearing it
happen in
all
the
the
next 10
time,
years? I doubt it.
then Google's collecting all that information, every thought that you have. There's, even if it's not getting published immediately, they're still collecting it, right? And
But
they're
we're
keeping
still
it
at
in
a
the
point where
database.
we can fuck with the system, where we can do
But-
something. I could start looking at pound puppy videos for anytime I go on my computer, I'll just type in pound puppies and they won't know. They'll be like, what the fuck?
Look,
Well,
here,
PETA would come after you because they're, you shouldn't be pounding puppies.
Stupid puppies. But
We're
do
going
you see
right
what I'm
off the
saying?
rails.
So we're still, and maybe it's a false sense of security, but I don't think we're there yet. And I don't think that this would happen like in the next 10 years. I'm more worried about our kids and what they've got going
it's
for.
going to happen. Listen, man, listen.
Not,
This
but
whole
before
thing,
we die, I'm not necessarily sure.
it's going to happen before you die, hopefully. Listen.
It's going to happen
Here-
before next week.
It's going to happen soon, man. Listen. Here's
Listen.
an example that people
Listen,
can relate
Linda.
to. Here's an example people can
Listen,
relate.
Linda.
Listen to me. So, when I'm talking about farmers 100 years ago being able to predict the weather accurately, like we don't even predict the weather accurately anymore. That's a whole other
Right.
topic. But listen, back in the late 90s, I guess, the job I had required me to drive around a lot within a fairly limited geographical area of maybe like 150s, mile radius or whatever. I didn't have a cell phone. I had ADC maps, and if everyone remembers those, like
Hold on, I gotta check
Perfect.
my heart rate.
There you go. And I drove a lot, and I had a sense. I don't know why. I knew what direction I was heading in. I was aware of where
Right.
the sun was. I knew if I was going north, south, east, or west. I knew instinctively how far 10 miles was, and I could chill and listen to some music and be like, my body would be like, oh, okay, that exit's coming up. I knew where I was. I would glance at a map. I could drive 150 miles in a day and look at a map like 3 times and get to where I needed to go. Now I've been using my phone, Google Maps, whatever, navigation for 10 years now. There are times I walk out of someone's house or I walk out of a meeting somewhere. I get in my car. I have no idea where the hell I am. I don't know what town I'm in.
True.
I don't know if I'm north, south, east, or
'Cause you
west
don't
of
need
my
to.
house. I have to key it in. And here's the crazy part. I pick up my phone and you know what? It says, you are 49 minutes from home. It knows because of the time of day that
Right.
I'm probably going to be heading home. And I just hit the thing and I follow the thing. I have lost, just in my own short time on this ball, I have lost my own sensory perception of where I am
Yeah.
on our roads.
My phone is recently.
It went away that fast. It went away that fast
I
because I
never told my
relied on
phone
this thing.
where my work is, and my phone knows where my work is.
I'm saying it is a benefit, right? Like Kaczynski says, but as we all know, every benefit has a cost. So what is the cost? And we ignore the costs. That's what we do. We push the costs way down and we never talk about the costs,
Well,
right?
Think about in the future though. So you won't even leave your house. Your avatar will go out into the world, interact with people, do your shopping, and come back home. You'll just spend the whole day probably in your bed or on your couch or something, right?
Yeah.
I feel where you're coming from there. I think we're more like the society in Wall-E than we are the society in Avatar. Does that make sense? Like, it's back to the robots. We're gonna have robots do stuff. It's not gonna be an avatar. An avatar is a symbol of you. It's gonna be your Asimo. If you guys aren't familiar, Asimo is this
Your
robot
what?
that ASIMO.
There's
It's
no
this
cussing
robot-
on this show.
well, it's too late for that. It's this robot that Honda made, and it's really pretty impressive. It's about the size of a tall child. It can walk, it can kick a soccer ball, it can do all these like crazy cool things.
What's
It's in
it
that
called?
movie. It's in that movie I talked
What's
about
it
earlier.
called?
It's in Lo and
Asimo?
It's
Behold.
called your Asimo.
All right, enough of your nonsense, your tomfoolery.
All
Don't
around.
trust China. China is Asimo.
Honda, but I think that is China. You might be right, but no, it's a really cool
No,
robot.
that's
There's a few
Japan.
really cool robots out there that are most likely going to be along those lines of the.
We have developed a society that, for better or for worse, and I have a second point here, that for better or for worse has become so dependent on the internet, and I'm not just talking about like social media. I'm talking about the interconnectedness of everything. That if it goes away, there are millions of people who will die because they have no idea what's going on. I'm talking about there are millions of people, and I may be one of them. I don't know. I'm not a hunter. I can fish. I've never killed an animal and ate
I have
it.
no problem with killing an animal.
I would love to do it. I mean, I think I could do it. I've never done it. I don't have
Kill it with
those,
my hands.
I don't have those skills, right? So if the grocery stores don't have food and the restaurants don't have food, I don't know how to deal with that. I mean, I can eat some
Right.
leaves. I can go fishing. I mean, I'd be eating fish, I guess. I don't know.
Here's something I thought of when I get this book, right? And I'm thinking, okay, get to Costa Rica. All right.
What is it
Live in-
about Costa Rica that like
Yeah.
there's a million?
What?
if you're
there's other
going to, why
places.
not be at the beach and good weed?
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
But no, it's just they say it's very inexpensive to live there. It's probably going to be. You want to look if you're really into the worlding. You want to go to places that are going to be the last places that are hit. No threats come from there. You'll live the longest, most chance of surviving longer. Not forever, just longer. But anyway, I kept thinking about living in the wilderness, and I've got my books, so that'll help me. But then I'm like, but I can't bring my phone, which will help me get around.
You couldn't
Because
find
they
your way
can
there.
How are you
track
gonna
me
get
on it.
How are you gonna-
But my
You
phone was a
could be asking
consideration.
people,
I started to
Which way
sweat.
is Costa Rica?
I started to sweat when I was thinking, how do I do this without my GPS? We're fucked. We're
That's
so
where it goes
fucked.
off the rails, man.
But yeah, I mean, you would really
I think you guys underestimate people. Sorry, Zeus. I think you underestimate people. I think people would survive. There'd be a shortage of if the grocery stores weren't and the whole farm and the supply wasn't there.
Mhm.
Obviously, there would be shortages because
yes, but we're
there aren't enough
selfish
deer
people,
for everybody
man.
to kill, and there aren't enough fish for everybody to catch.
Hey, Tom, were you
So-
around like April of 2020 when grocery store shelves? I mean,
Yeah.
people were
People threw
freaking
fists for
Yeah.
out,
toilet
dude.
paper.
People were beating each other up for like a loaf of Wonder Bread. I mean, it was horrible. Do you remember? That was just
Exactly.
last year.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. If they go starving, they're not going to fucking go out into the woods and go, I'm going to hunt. They're going to kill you and steal your canned goods.
Exactly. It's going to be like The Walking Dead.
Except not as civilized.
Yeah, probably not.
is
Like I
nuts.
said, I've said this for 20 years. We are 48 hours away from like total pandemonium at any given time. And it was made clear to me back in like whatever it was, 2010, when we had like the Snowmageddon, whatever, the President's Day double storms that came in. It
Right.
was like
How about
everything was shut down, and
How
people
about in the 80s or was it 70s or 80s with the gas crisis, where you'd see these lines that were miles long for gas? You could have walked to wherever you needed to go in the time it took for you to save or to go get that gas. We really,
But if
you
the
know what?
gas, remember when the Derico came through a few years ago?
Yeah,
The
And
what?
all the gas, you
The
couldn't
Rachel.
get gas. The gas stations were not working because most of them are electric pumps.
Oh,
There are very few.
the Rachel. Yeah,
Yeah, it knocked out
2012.
the power, so people couldn't get gas. We had to drive until we could find a gas station that had pumps that were working. Think about that.
Guys, 6 months ago, was it 6 months,
the
7 months
hacking
ago?
of the pipeline.
Yeah, so I had the pictures of the lady filling up 5-gallon Home Depot buckets with gasoline and putting them in the
Yes.
back of her SUV. I mean, that was like outside of DC 7 months ago, right? And that was like what, 48 hours, 72 hours without gas?
There's part of me that loves people, that loves humanity. There's also part of me with like vaccines. And I mean, the vaccines are so topical. For us to talk on this episode is not that big of a deal. But if you don't want it, I call that natural selection, man. You know, it's going to be a shame because it might be somebody I know or love. But like gas, filling buckets of gas, she deserves to have somebody throw a lit cigarette into the back of her car. I mean, for fuck's sake.
But Zeus, listen. And I know we're not getting into this, but for what you're saying, like people should know. I mean, a year and a half ago, when you said like, "Hey, man, this virus could have emanated from a lab," you were banned from Facebook. When people said, "Hey, you don't need to wear masks," the Fauci was like, "Don't wear masks." And you know, when he changes like what herd immunity is based on the polls, I mean, people who don't believe the press are intelligent people because the press has sucked and has lied to people. Like there's a reason for it. If anyone is responsible for fomenting this situation we're in right now, it is our press because they're horrible, right? So when people come out with these crazy theories about the vaccine, I'm like, this is what you get, man. This is the result of having a press that has an agenda instead of just reporting truth. This is what you get.
I believe it was Winston Churchill that said that the press is a bucket of fuck sticks. Was that him?
Yeah, I think it was Abraham Lincoln.
It might have been Abraham Lincoln. We have the press, you know. So I was talking about it earlier, and you know what? Fuck the military industrial complex. We have to worry about the medical industrial complex. I think they have more money now. You know what kills people more than guns? A fucking world-changing virus. You know?
Yeah.
You can't see that coming. You can't dodge a cough quick enough.
It's going to be worse next time. That's what
And there will be a next time.
There is absolutely going to be a next time. No question.
Yeah.
I mean,
should we start building bunkers or what?
Look,
I thought we were talking about all the good of the future and all this technology.
Well, we're not. No.
And now we're like, okay, we better get the bunkers ready.
It's
which is
six in one hand, half dozen in the other, man. The technology saves lives, but let's ask this question:
are we
does
chimps with a machine gun?
Take more lives or save more lives? You know,
wait, say that
saves
again.
More.
Does technology does it though, man? One drone can kill somebody that could have saved 1,000 people.
But look at the explosion of the world population just in the past, like half century, or even if you go a full 100 years, all the medicine, Africa, the population exploded, India, China, because of all the vaccines and the medicine and everything.
But is that helping the world or hurting it?
Well,
the world's fine, dude. The world's going to be around long after we're gone.
Yeah, but the resources won't, my friend. The resources won't. We have to go to space.
They will.
It'll still be here. We're barely even scratching the surface. of
Yeah,
resources.
the Earth can make more oil. It'll take a
Can't
few
eat
million
oil,
years.
Tom.
we're
You
gonna
can't eat
take
oil.
ourselves out long. The Earth has been around for 4 billion years, dude. It's not going.
The Earth
We're
can always
going.
make more diamonds.
Like Carlin,
right?
like George Carlin said, it's not the Earth, it's us. We will destroy ourselves.
And so, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You can't eat oil. So yes, we can make soy. We can. Well, you're talking about our resources not running out. Fuck. We can
You
always
eat
walk.
vegetable
Okay.
oil.
Screw
Oil.
Screw all the. We can walk. We don't need cars. We don't need machines.
Have you guys ever been in a plane and flown coast to coast in this country
Yes.
and looked down?
Yes.
Okay. We have a lot of space, man. There's a lot of space has no population in it.
Yeah, but most of it's between your ears. You get it?
I'm saying in the Northeast, everyone in the Northeast in the Mid-Atlantic states thinks everything's like, it's not like this everywhere, man. Get in a plane, fly to California, and you
for what
can
it's
go
worth,
for
those
a
people-
long stretch without seeing anything.
Those people are probably less blind than we are. They still use some of those senses. Oh my God, my knee hurts. It's gonna rain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
Look,
The Farmer's
you ever-
Almanac is still out there.
have you guys ever heard I mean, obviously you have, the expression like trust your gut on something?
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's actual, I'm not going to get into it on this episode, but there are perceptions that we are numb to in our own biology, to our own peril. I mean, the whole expression of like trust your gut, it's a real thing. It is a real thing, and we ignore it. We think it's a joke. First impressions, walking into the room and in like 2 seconds having an impression like what's going on, and then we overthink it, and then we learn.
I think
like,
we might be the
and I
last
should have just trusted my
generation.
first impression. Your first impression, there is a perception that you have as a being that is very accurate, and we just ignore that a lot of times, and we're like, oh no, that's just our gut reaction. We need to push that aside and
Yeah.
think about it more.
It'd
I'm
be
like,
funny, like talking comic books, like Logan. Everybody knows Logan, Wolverine, right?
I don't know him
Yeah.
personally, but
Well, but we know the character.
yes, I do.
So
know
they
the
talk about his heightened senses. What if his senses aren't heightened? He's just more in tune with his normal senses. Like he smells smoke. We smell smoke and we just, whatever. We don't think fire. We think, God, that's an annoying smell. We're so bothered by things that aren't sitting right here in front of our face.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe the people that we're going to one day think are these elite, these ninjas of life, these people that can attain more information from the world around them. They've just got normal senses. We just stopped using ours. We've blinded ourselves, deafened ourselves, removed our sense of smell and taste because we've got an app that can give it to us. It's frightening, man.
Not as well. Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at like Star Trek, I mean, science fiction,
Precursor to science fact.
yeah, I mean, it's really, and you look at like the Borg, and then you look around and you see people looking at their phones all the time. I mean, if you're unfortunately have to go to like the DMV or MVA, whatever you call it in your state, or if you're somewhere and you're waiting, I mean, everyone's like,
even at a bus stop. Yeah.
a bus stop.
Yeah,
People
because who the hell
people
wants to
can't sit
communicate
still.
with somebody around them?
People can't sit still
Right.
for 10 seconds. I mean, and I'm not putting myself out of this. I have actually, and it's something I need to work on. I wake up in the morning. I've got an alarm on my phone. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what happened last night? Let me check my fantasy football score. And I'm like,
Don't even get me fucking started on that.
I'm chained to this thing. I'm chained to it. Right. I
You're
don't want to
chained
be.
to two, motherfucker. You're chained to two.
Yeah. I've got a work phone and a personal phone because I can't let them mix. I don't want to let them mix.
Right. That
But
would
what
be
I'm saying
worlds
is-
colliding.
What I'm saying is we're already,
We've already been
Too-
assimilated. There is no
too into it.
resistance.
look, listen, a few weeks ago, what was it? It was September 1st when that tornado came through. I have an office in Annapolis and I was at my office It's all glass. It's right on West Street in Annapolis.
Mm-hmm.
It's all glass windows, floor to ceiling. And I was in there, and it was a crappy weather day. I had heard it was going to be a crappy weather day. I didn't pay any attention to anything. I got a thing on my phone. Hey man, there's a tornado coming. I was like, I'm always getting these tornado things. Like 5 minutes later, a fucking tornado came through like 80 yards from my office and like just destroyed stuff. I mean, destroyed stuff. And I was running into
finger of God, man. Finger of God.
Dude, I ran it. I was like almost hugging the copier and I like, please save me. You know, like my
Okay, wait.
There it goes.
We gotta go back for a second.
Yeah.
You guys didn't get that reference?
Which one?
Finger of God.
Wait, say it again.
It's Bill Paxton. Oh my God, he disappeared again.
From Twister. Yeah.
Yes, from Twister.
No, I thought tornadoes were cool, and now I never want to go through one again. And it was just an F2, and I was like 80 yards from the path. I still don't want to hear it again. I don't want to.
Well, let's not do tornado stories.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Tornado story.
My point is, my perception. Yeah, even though I had many cues in my natural surroundings that there was something wrong, I was like, well, my phone doesn't say it. It seems you know, I mean, that's insane. That's crazy.
But luckily you can film it.
But luckily I could film it, dude.
The same thing happens with other technology, like the smoke alarm. I mean, have you ever had it go off and then you just stay in your office? You're like, it's not a real fire. I'm just going to, I don't smell anything. I'm just going to stay here.
When you hear the fire alarm, you don't get alarmed or worried. You get annoyed.
Right. Like, turn that off.
Freaking fire alarm. Damn it.
But we have all these, the technology replacing these sensors, like radon detectors and smoke detectors and these things. They can detect the smoke while we're still sleeping. We wouldn't even know.
Don't you remember the good old days when people died and you didn't have to worry about the alarms?
Yeah, they burned to death. That was great. I missed it.
Radon poisoning. Oh my God, Mike, you went blurry.
Oh my God, what is going on, man?
Stupid technology.
Why do you have the what is the Johnny Carson drapes for tonight?
It's not Johnny Carson. It was like some crazy background that's just like static. I don't even know.
Okay,
I do have the Johnny Carson. I do have, wait, let's see here. I do have the Johnny Carson drapes.
What are you using to get the Johnny Carson? Is it technology?
Is it technology? There we go. That's a Johnny Carson.
I'm going to tell you, Morpheus comes to me, offers me the red pill or the blue pill. Whichever one just makes me be oblivious to all the shit going on, that's the one I take.
But you go right, like in a few podcasts ago when I was like, hey man, maybe we can just like all get together and say no to this. You were like, we're going to be storming machine gun nests. See, here it goes again. Like there is an in between, Zeus. You seem to go right to the apocalyptic. There may be a middle ground.
I make jokes is what I do. However, with the storming the guns, it is going to take something horrific to change things, to inspire. That's what always happens.
So how many days is it that we have American people still trapped in Afghanistan? Are we allowed to talk
about that this episode?
Okay. You know what's interesting?
Let me check on my phone.
The what?
Let me see if my phone will tell me.
I can tell you if I can look at the intranet.
Can I tell you something that was really nice that Facebook did, since Facebook owns Instagram? Did you know that about 4 days ago they banned the hashtag natural immunity? Because you're not allowed to talk about natural immunity. What?
You're looking at natural immunity. It's got the words "shall we play a game" behind it. Because I'm telling you, I walked around without a mask on COVID. I mean, I didn't go without a mask on COVID units, but I didn't go full PPE. You know, I wore just a regular mask for however long this was devastating humanity. I was like, meh, it's the flu. And look at me, man. And I'm diabetic. I'm 50. I'm diabetic.
That's old, man.
I don't necessarily take the best care of I don't take horrible care of myself, but the point being, don't mock me. My point being is, I'm starting to think that I've got natural immunity. I am just as shy of eating the eclair out of the trash can.
Yeah,
I never get sick.
I honestly, I mean, and I'm whatever. I feel like I've had this and I was asymptomatic because there's no way I haven't had this already. There's no way. I just can't believe I haven't had it. I think I had it and didn't have any symptoms.
I think we're never gonna know because heads will roll. But again,
We're
remember
so
the secret.
we're so back to virus.
Remember the secret in The Walking Dead?
That we all had it.
All got it.
That was a great one. I mean, we have kind of veered away from the technology, but we haven't. I mean, technology has also been involved with our complacency. I mean, we are not going outside and looking. We're getting all of our information about coronavirus from sources that are sketchy at best,
to say the least.
Yeah. So it does tie in. I think we're at, and I'll go back to, I'm going to do a call back again to Dana. I think we are at this place of maybe a birth of a new, like an enlightenment of sorts. I hope. Again, I'm skeptical, but I do appreciate her optimism that this is like birth, that we're just going through a rough patch.
Well,
and then it might get better.
It depends on what view. I mean, if you want to look at it from 100,000 feet, human civilization. Yeah, I don't think humans are going away anytime soon.
Unless we blast the earth to smithereens. And I don't think we live in a world of James Bond villains. I don't think anybody wants to blow up the shit that they killed people to get. You know what I mean? That they sold their souls to own. No, that's going to take a truly insane person. And quite frankly, they don't have the organization to get to a level where they can drop a bomb. It's going to take a zealot, or it's going to take a crazy person. And the zealot and the crazy person, not necessarily mutually exclusive of each other. But
that very nicely goes back to the original story that Mike was telling about the Iranians trying to get the nuclear weapon.
Nuclear.
That's why sorry. That's why Israel was trying so hard to stop them, because Iran, like I said last time, they can't be trusted. Right. They're the crazy people. If you give them a nuclear bomb, we're all screwed.
And the Israelis have the argument of they know where the missile's going to go first.
It's going to be the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Iran. I mean, Iran has been saying that they want to wipe Israel off the map, for decades.
No secret.
I mean, it's not. I'm just saying. Listen, here's the thing. We have a segment of our society, mainly, military, governments, companies. As soon as something is possible, let me jump back. I used to have this cat. His name was Bear, right? He was a great cat.
Okay.
And I used to have a bear named Cat.
I used to laugh because he was a very smart cat. And then anytime I would open the door, it's one thing I couldn't teach him. Like, I'd be like, Bear, stop, don't go. And I'm trying, and I'd have to fight him and put my foot down. And the arms race between Bear and I was, if he could physically get past me out the door, scratch me, do whatever he had to do to get out the door, he would get out the door. There was no reasoning. There was no treats. There was no nothing. Well, technology is kind of like that. So it will advance as far as it can advance, as fast as it can advance. And there's no thinking around it. There's no what, technology, I don't know if we're ready for you yet. I think we need to think about, no, technology is Bear. If he can physically get by you out the door, he's getting out the door.
Here's the
And
difference.
that's technology. And we think as a society that we
It's a great
have
analogy.
that we're making all
It's
these
beautiful
insane, but it
analogy.
actually makes sense.
But I've got an argument.
Yes,
Technology doesn't poop in a box in your house.
that's true.
Yes, it
Well, he would
does.
do that. Yeah,
But there's a website where you can see that.
I'm just saying we
No,
have
my
hubris.
laptop has shit the bed so many times, so I say that's false.
We have hubris in thinking that we can control it. Is my point. And
That is a fucking amazing analogy. But I also stick by the fact that technology doesn't poop in your house. And that's why I
I
don't like
say
it.
it does.
it can. It can.
Listen, we're at a point now where you can go, Alexa, turn the temperature down. Alexa, turn on the lights in the bedroom. I mean, it's cool. It's like so cool. Like it's exactly
then
what we
Alexa
saw in the
is
comics,
like-
cartoons.
No, then Alexa's like, well, I don't understand what you're saying.
Oh, Alexa's
That's
a
the equivalent
fucking
of
moron.
pooping in the box.
Yeah, Alexa, stop pooping in a box in the house.
Here are some results from Wikipedia about pooping in a box.
What is it? There was another another cool analogy is like that when what we see as technology, if we were to go back into the 1800s with a cell phone, we'd be wizards. They'd be, or let's go back further. But the point being is you could go, well, I can get us there in 5 minutes if we just walk that way by looking at this strange device in my hand, this scribe or this.
But
this
at the same time, like Mike was saying, they can do things in the 1800s, like find their way over the mountain
That
or
we can't
read
do.
the stars.
Yeah, they like
that
spit
we've
on a
forgotten
lead and it'll
everything
cure
about
you
the
of your
stars.
poisoning.
Look, technology is fragile, right? I mean, you look at like when we built our electric grid in this country, we didn't have redundancy was not something that was valued or important because the stuff was so costly. It was like, just get the main lines there, whatever. So we don't have a lot of redundancy in our power grid. And the way it's set up, when things start to fail, other things get overloaded, and you have this cascading effect, which we've already seen. I mean, it's happened in New York twice. Like the derecho that Tom was,
we were shitting our pants over Y2K.
and that didn't even happen. I'm saying we've had this happen on a small scale before. You know, I'm just saying when people look, if you didn't have electricity, think about what your day would be like if you woke up and there was no electricity. Just think about that for a while. Your phone may have some battery power in it, but how about all the towers? They don't have power in them. And then your phone battery is going to run out.
Don't talk like that, Michael. You're scaring me.
I'm saying it's not, it will happen. It will happen eventually.
Yeah. I think we're in a very interesting, dynamic place in time.
If by interesting you mean absolutely freaking frightening, then yes.
Well, so you weren't here last week.
I was here, but I wasn't here.
For the 9/11 episode, but this kind of applies to, or what I said on that one kind of applies to this as well. Are we freaking out because shit's going downhill fast, or are we freaking out because shit's just not what we're used to? Like, there's been problems in the world before. And our parents complained about this or that. And we thought, blah, 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 you know, listen to Kurt Cobain. He has all the answers. You know, we poo-pooed what they were saying. And I'm wondering if their parents did the same, and that there were changes in the world that they saw because it was so drastic. And nobody likes change, man. Anybody says they like change, they're a fucking liar. We like things to just go the way they are, and things are smooth. So
the paradigm, yes, there's always.
You follow
change.
what I'm saying, though?
No, I do. No, I do. There is always change, but it's faster, and the paradigms are. Look, music changes, right?
Is it faster or are we just slower?
No, okay, listen, music styles change, but in the turn of the last century, you had phonographs or you had cylinders, right? It worked on a certain technology. That went all the way up through and into the 80s. So you had that for 80 years. And then you had CDs, and they came and went in what, 20 years?
Yeah, but
I mean,
actually,
it's accelerated.
no, but in
Everything is
between that, there was technologies that were even better than like 8-track is still what we do. Like we may be doing it in a digital format, but 8-track is still how we. That technology is still how we like our music. We like 8 different inputs of music. So you got your cello on one, you got your violin on another, you got
that
guitar on here.
I'm just saying it's accelerated.
We're still using the same things. We've just adapted the medium or media that we take it in. So I mean, I get what you're saying, but the technology improved. It didn't necessarily change music. You follow what I'm saying? Music is still music.
Music is still music.
There's core things that are still there. We're getting away from it. Auto tunes would be a better argument. You know, now you don't have to even be able to sing. You can just do this thing that sounds kind of cool.
Well, jumping back to the Neuralinks, like Tom was saying, you know, whatever the human brain is, whatever its capacity is, it's always been limited by the interface, right? So we talk, that's kind of slow. We seeing is pretty quick info input. Hearing, fairly fast. Writing, that's kind of slow. I mean, we're like 300, 1200, 2400 baud. But the wet works are the same. But what this Neuralink thing is, you're talking about accelerating the baud rate, right? The interface rate of what our brain can do interacting with other things by a factor that we can't even comprehend. And I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of people that kind of like lose their minds over this a little bit. I don't know that we're capable of inputting information at that level.
And there's always been the fallacy that we use 10% of our brains and we can do all this other. It's not true. We use our brains for machinations that cannot even be imagined. Dude, you can like start to fall and your toe literally just based on all the stuff in your body, shifting weight, leaning forward, and then that little toe is what saves you from falling down and busting your skull. Like our bodies are these, I mean, honestly, computers, it's going to take a long time for them to be able to do what the human body can do. The immense amount of information that is constantly flowing through our bodies and our brains is immeasurable. It is divine, you know. It's still something to be worshipped isn't the word I'm looking for, but we should be standing in awe at what the human body is able to do. And then on top of all that, it creates life.
Well, I mean, that's the most amazing. I mean, the thing with AI,
I think all of it's amazing, not just babies.
No, I'm just saying, but that's a creation. I'm just saying, with this AI, supercomputers, and robotics, you give something a directive, and we have, as humans, we have empathy, right? Computers, AI, whatever, empathy is not that's not on board, right?
Yeah,
So if you give something a directive that has the capability of achieving it without empathy, things that humans wouldn't do, that's not an artificial intelligence isn't going to have that same stopgap.
Complacency is what makes us bad. I'll give you a good for instance. You talk about empathy, and I happen to think I am an empath on many levels. I when I talk to a patient, I'm able to delve into their psyche and give them answers or ask questions that'll help them to calm down. I think that's the whole thought behind empathy. Anyway, there was a kid. I just listened to this podcast and they were talking about, or no. Yeah, no, I think it actually was, I watched Snapped or something. And this kid, his stepmother his adoptive mother told him to kill his father. She manipulated him, and she said that he was dying and he didn't want to go out that way. And really, she was just trying to get insurance. So, even our own human empathy can be sullied, soiled, manipulated, changed. Again, it's a weird thing, because I hate to use this term and I'm using it very lightly, but there is kind of a interesting thought process behind binary thinking. This is bad, this is good, and that's why I think where we're getting lazy is we're just saying it'd be so much easier if just one thing was bad and one thing was good, and we didn't have to think about it, instead of actually delving into each situation. That kid, they let him go because he was pointed at somebody and used like a weapon, much like the robot. Is the robot guilty, or the people that told it to shoot the person? The robot doesn't know what it's doing. What is it? Who says it? George Carlin's said, guns don't kill people, bullets kill people, guns just make them go really fast. You know what I mean? So it's a weird place. Like I said, there's part of me at my core that's like, I'm just as lazy or complacent as everybody else, and I'd like to just have all the decisions taken out of my hands. You guys know some of the stuff I'm going through right now. I'd much rather just have things just be taken out of my hands and work out okay for everybody. And I don't, there is a part that says that'd be great. There's another part that says, what about my autonomy?
But look, I don't think the robots have to have empathy, or they don't have to be as perfect as their creators, because we're using the robots to do the menial tasks, to build the cars on the assembly lines, or to be the droids fighting the battles, carrying a gun so they can get destroyed. And if one falls over, they don't need the tow to save them. If 100 of them, crash and fall over, so what? We'll build 100 more, because that's what we're going to use them for.
But we're eventually using them to keep us from getting shot by the other side's robot.
Or
Eventually,
to
they'll do the
lost.
fighting for us.
Yeah. But then that's just a video game. Nah, somebody always has to.
That's what it's going to be. That's what war is going to be.
I don't think so.
We're going to be using drones. No, drones, smart missiles. We've already got it. And that's like Mike just told you at the beginning, that you can use a remote control device with a machine gun attached to it and just use that. You don't have to risk a human life.
But then what's the point? I know that sounds crazy. Like, I don't want human lives
to kill people. That's the point.
Right.
You want to save
really
your
just
own
a
people,
new block.
but kill the other people.
It's just a new shield to keep us from being killed by those guys. Those robots are there. It's going to become, we have to devastate their robots so we can get to the meaty, soft ones behind.
We would have to destroy their robots so their robots couldn't hurt us.
You know how and again, I'm not a hunter. I've been good friends with people who are hunters and have given me like venison or what have you.
I've watched the show Hunter.
But I'm just saying, listen, there is a difference. There's a difference between, and I haven't done it myself. And I don't have the stomach for it. I think if I was pressed to, I could figure it out. But there's a difference between going out and killing something either with an arrow or trap or shooting it and dressing it and cutting the meat out and cooking it. There's a difference between that and going to the grocery store and buying something, right? Well, there's a difference between being in a war with a bayonet and like stuffing it into somebody's gullet and killing them and dealing with that and sitting back and having robots do it. And you know what? It's easier to have robots do it. And that's a frightening
It's kind of like that
eventuality.
already.
It's
If you've
kind of
heard
like
the
that
tales
already.
of the soldiers in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
they don't see the enemy. The enemy doesn't see them.
We got guys in
They're
like Utah that are like, droning people halfway around the world. And me, I'm a hypocrite because I'm sitting here in, the mid-Atlantic. I'm not in the military, and I'm whatever. People are fighting in my name, like using robotics and missiles. I'm saying the more distance you put, there's something horrific about taking a life yourself. And that's why, a lot of native cultures, it was a very spiritual thing, and you use the
you
meat
ate the
and there
heart
was,
of it, or yeah.
or whatever. And I mean, I'm just watching Red Dawn. Like, I don't know. Right. So, but I'm saying there's a difference between being involved in something viscerally like that, literally,
right.
and then having an opinion about it where it's being done for you and it's like stages away, and we're making it easier to kill things, right?
And
I
maybe
don't
we're
know.
kind of the bitches in this whole situation, because
Yeah.
who are we to make all these complaints when there's some 18-year-old kid that's putting his life on the line coming back?
Look at the ages of those people that died in that bomb blast in Afghanistan. Was it like one of them was over 30? I mean, it's ridiculous. And we send these people who are young because they do what we tell them to do.
And really, I mean, isn't the news in our media just kind of another form of that remote control? We don't have to be there, but we can hear about all the awfulness without actually it affecting us, short of us paying a little more for our gas or running out of toilet paper every once in a while.
This is like, you listen, you read the news or like you're in traffic.
I was listening though.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying you're in your car, you get into some traffic jam, it costs you 15 minutes, and you go by and it's like some car flipped over or whatever, and like
you get mad,
killed in some accident. You're like, damn it, this cost me 15 minutes. And it's like someone lost their dad or someone lost their daughter or something, right? And we're just, you can't be open to all that all the time, because you'll never be able to even leave your house, right? Because this stuff happens all the time, and unless it happens to you, it's easy to dismiss it. I mean, I do it all the time. Everyone does it all the time.
Yeah. There's 7 billion people in the world. You can't have that much individual empathy.
Life doesn't have
individual person.
It's not as precious anymore.
Right.
And that's technology. Life is not precious because we can distance ourselves from it in so many ways. Go get on the metro and see who's actually, I mean, when I was a kid, you sat and you like talked to the person next to you. Maybe you read a book, but the book was there for them to see, and they could go, oh, I read that book. But now you got a phone. They can't tell what you're looking at. You could be filming them, whatever. Yeah,
I would be more likely to cry if I dropped and broke my phone than somebody. And it's sad, but it's true.
It's very honest, Tom, and you're right. Yeah, because you can't open a vein for everybody, And anyway, it's look, we are individuals, but we are also a society, and we think that we have the power to make all these decisions. But I think, again, getting back to the topic of this show, the drumbeat is moving forward. Things are advancing, things are developing and changing, and we're not party to it. We are not making a conscious choice to go in this direction. We're just going in this direction.
But
what's there are implications to it.
Another thought is, because let's be honest, we say that we wouldn't like this Neuralink, but I can't say for sure that if some part of it was beneficial to me and all I had to do was put something up on my temple and I could suddenly do all those things, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I wouldn't consider it. Maybe this is just a consideration. Maybe technology is part of evolution. Maybe
it absolutely is.
Maybe we're not going to travel to other planets physically. Maybe we're going to travel to them through satellites and 3D printing of skin. We do 3D printing of skin. Why couldn't we transfer our consciousness technologically into this body that's waiting for us on Mars, and then just leave this one to ash? Who knows?
Listen, when was the Civil War? 170 years ago, something like that. People would they would break a leg, or they'd get a shot in the tibia, right? And they'd have to like have their leg cut off, or they'd die or whatever. I had a hip replacement like 2 years ago. I went in, it was like going to 7-Eleven. It was like, oh yeah, you're the 2 o'clock.
You didn't have to bite on a belt?
No, you're the 2 o'clock. I went in, they wheeled me in to the operating room. It looked like a Jiffy Lube. It was, you think like on TV, operating rooms are all pristine and white and subway top. This place looked like someone's like garage where they were working on like a 84 Camaro. Like there was like shit against the wall. It was like a freaking disaster. And this was like in a reputable hospital. And I was like, guys,
are you sure?
This place looks like a shithole. I actually said that. And then they like gave me the thing and I fell asleep. What I'm saying is, it is like major surgery. And these guys, they're like working at Taco Bell. And they're like 170 years ago, Friday, I would be dead. Like if in 200 years before that, they would have left me behind on the planes, right? Like
and then they replaced the bone that protects your shithole.
Yes, exactly.
So, I think we should wrap it up here. But
anyway, I'm just saying that's just 200 years. That's just 200 years.
So, and then I think we should wrap it up. I'm gonna end this with another story, very much like yours. I had a gallstone removed, right?
When?
A while ago.
Oh, okay.
Laparoscopically, which means they take a camera through your belly button and they go all through your body, right?
And
then they get there.
Horrible.
And then they cut the gall. I know my belly button's huge, but I don't even get it. And so she goes and she cuts off my gallbladder, right? And sews it up, all with this, or cauterizes it inside, all inside my body. But then she drops the gallstone. So
in your body?
Yes. And what she does is she takes the laparoscopic device and goes and finds it and pulls it out of my body. Mm-hmm. That's technology right there. She just basically with a straw and a camera yanked this thing out of me after dropping it in me. And now, granted, she was like the #1 surgeon on the East Coast for gallstone surgeries laparoscopically, but there's your technology right there. She took a weavy, wobbly thing, a little camera on, fucked up, and fixed it with the same device.
One last question before we go. To Zeus's point, let's have a quick vote, and I'll go last. If you had the option of having an operation like Zeus had, that would be done by a human being or by an artificial intelligent robot, which would you choose?
Wow.
Robot.
I
was saved by a human, so I'm gonna go human.
Yeah, I got to go with human. I'd like to say robot, and I know where Tom's going with it. I'm not there yet, but
I get it. But you got fighter pilots, and you got drones.
Maverick, man.
I kind of like
making the assumption that the robot is fully capable of doing it.
No, of course, no, and that would be the assumption. That would be the assumption.
Yeah, but that's the thing is the robot has the and this is where I get confused on it. The robot has the binary of saying, I've done everything I can. My statistics tell me that this person's going to die. He's fucked. And then they stop. They shut down.
I want to look.
Humans do that as well.
But I want to look the human being in the eye. Some don't. I want to look the human being in the eye.
Who pulls the plug, Zeus? When the plug gets pulled, it's pulled by a human.
I'm not going to say who pulls the plug, but I think we all know who I'm thinking.
All right, gents. I think we've reached the end of this game of Candyland.
Let's call that a wrap. It was great. Take care, guys. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
See you in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.